so it can take more space, as you can see. Japanese, okay, Japanese. And now what I do is I duplicate this layer, and let's call it cookbook, just like this, cookbook. And actually I'm going to reduce the sizing a bit because it's way too big now, and I'm going to select it all. Make sure that you have the right layer selected over here, and I'm going to reduce it to fixed 500 pixels and see how it looks like. Actually, I'm going to increase a bit so I can have exactly the same sizing over here. What I can do is actually just drag this line over here so I can align things more easily in the center, just like this. And I'm going to increase this a bit, so let's call it 500 pixels because I want to, actually this made it over here a terrible mistake. And okay, and let's see if I'm able to put this exactly in between. So it's way too large. This is something, when it comes to covers, you really need to play around with the several options until it looks good. Okay, so this is something where it is time consuming. You really need to test things around until it looks really good, and you can see that now it's exactly in the center. So I'm just going to give it a bit more spacing so people can more easily read it, just like this. And let's see, I would probably change the color over here to, let's say, red. Let's try red over here. It probably will look good, a more vivid red, or probably not. I actually don't like the red that much over here, but something like this. It needs to be a more, as you can see, if I put a very vivid red, I mean, it doesn't exactly look that bad, but it seems like the letter red is more easily readable, as you may see. Now, I'm not saying that this cover will look perfect because as you can see, it's something that I'm just trying it out, and I usually spend a lot of time trying several options until I find the right ones. Actually, the green doesn't look exactly that bad. And it's very, I don't like the neon, but a more, even, let's try yellow. Or red. Let's see red once again. This is like pink. I actually think the green is easier for people to read, and I'm just going to leave this green. Now, I'm not saying, actually it's not this green, it's this one. Now, I'm not saying this looks perfect, but I think you get the idea. You just need to play around with several options until you have what you want. Let's try a dark. Dark just doesn't contrast well, as you can see. I mean, the red is not exactly bad, and this thing keeps changing the color. Let's try this one over here, and I'm just going to, actually probably didn't saw it, but basically what I did is I just grab this X coding over here, just copy it so I can use it for the one below. So I can use it over here for this font, which is still white, just like that. And now what you can do is, let's say that this is, I probably wouldn't exactly use this color. I actually don't like it that much, but I don't want to spend my whole day doing this video, so I'm not going to change that. So let's say 100, or let's call it 50 Italian recipes to make at home. So you can see that I'm going to grab this font over here, and this test, I just duplicated, as you can see. Actually it didn't, it's the one below. I duplicated, and I'm going to, let's say 50. Let's see how it's actually over here. Italian, Japanese, and actually in this case I would remove the bolts and just use regular fonts, and Japanese recipes. This you need to decrease the sizing over here to 200 pixels and see how it looks like, to make home. So to make home, and actually I'm going to pass this to white. Actually don't like this color. I actually inserted this color, but I don't like it. And Japanese, I'm going to make it bold so people can more easily read it. Japanese. And I'm going to insert this into the center, and I'm going to duplicate this layer so I can insert more tests right below and make at home. So I'm going to just copy this, make at home, make at home. And this would be a valid title for a book. This would be a valid title for a book. So over here you can increase the font a bit if you want. Actually I would just increase the font over here. I'm going to increase this a bit. So let's say 250 pixels. So it just can take more of this spacing and try to basically just put everything exactly with the same sizing over here. So 250 pixels. Let's just put over here this. Now the one, and let's say 250 pixels also, so it can have exactly the same sizing. And yeah, you could use a different font for the one below. You could use another font if you wanted, so it could have more contrast. But I'm just going to leave this one so I don't waste a huge amount of time doing this. So I actually don't like this color on the top. I need to change this. Okay, I don't like this color. Let's try another color. So let's try the green. Actually, green looks better. It contrasts far better with the black. So I'm just going to change this because I don't like it. And let's say you could actually increase this font a bit over here to 50. Let's try 300 and make it also bold, and also make it green over here. And actually I would probably need to decrease the sizing a bit over here so it would fit. And let's say 45, just like this. 245. Okay, so we have the top section done, and let's try just to align everything and try to put all of the spacing exactly the same one. And actually I'm just going to do a small bar so I can just separate both sections over. So I'm going to grab the title right on the top and just give a bit more spacing. So I select both of them and I use the arrows on my keyboard so I can do this and just give a bit more spacing. And I'm going to create a new layer over here by clicking on this option, and over here I'm just going to do a line on the center just like this, and I'm going to use the bucket and make sure that you have, in this case I'm going to use white for this, so I'm going to select white, and I'm just going to fill this small line over here, which is at the moment a bit too thick, so I'm going to select everything. Actually, so this borders, in my case, for this borders to appear, I need to use Control T at the same time, and you can see that this borders, which allow me to resize this layer a bit, appears, and I just try to position this exactly in the center like this. Okay, and I think it's in the center. Okay, now let's decrease the sizing, and that looks quite good. I probably would give let me try over here, just give put a border line on this font, and I go over here and I go to outer glow. So I double click on this layer and I just select, make sure that you have blend mode normal, and this will make your font just more easily readable in some cases. Actually, in this case, this is it's not that noticeable. It's actually not that noticeable, but sometimes it makes, you can see a bit, but it's not a huge deal in this case. Okay, it's not a huge deal, but that is something that I also use. It's a small trick, and it gives a slight black border on your letters, which allows people to more easily read your font. So that is something that I also normally do when it comes to this. And actually I'm going to put in everything, because it's not that noticeable, but it still makes my font a bit easier to read. It's not that noticeable, but you can see that there is a slight border on over here. So, and actually now I'm just going to start inserting the images. I'm not certain exactly about the sizing over here, so I'm just going to, and sometimes what you can do is, if you have an image that is quite too pale in terms of colors, you can go over here to image and you go to adjustments and you choose vibrance, and you can see that you can make your image a bit more vibrant, and that makes your image more vivid and more easily. Actually, this image is way too small, way too big, I mean, and I would try over here to do something like this. This is probably not the best image around, but actually I'm going to put this, select this, and I'm just going to pass this layer to the background over here, so something like that. I think this wouldn't be the best image. This is something that you really need to test around, and probably in this case, probably just a single image would probably be better, but this is something that you really need to test around. And I'm not saying that this is the best cover, because it's something that you really need to spend some time until you have a great and amazing quality cover. So, but you get the idea. So I'm going to pass this one to the background. Actually, I like this image a bit more than the other one, and it's kind of hard for me to get things done over here. So let me try and put over here. Let's see this image. You need to do this diagonals over here. I actually forgot to put the name. This is something that I also would need to do over here. So what I would do is, I actually forgot to do that. So I need to do that, and I'm just going to, so what I'm going to do now is, just to insert my name over here, I'm just going to grab this small square or rectangle in this case, and I'm going to use this option. So actually it's filled with white, but I want black over here, so black, and I'm going to give a more thicker edge in this case, and I actually want white for this. So actually, okay, Actually, I did this wrong for some reason, but so you want, so I would need to give a bit more spacing over here in the font. As I said, I'm doing this kind of freestyle, and this is something that you really need to work around. You can see in this case what happened is I don't have spacing on the top section to put my name, because you can see that it just comes over it. So what you would probably need to do is reduce the sizing of your font over here, okay? And you would need to reduce the sizing of your font, and then you just would I'm going to increase the edge over here. You would need to reduce the sizing of your font so you could insert this on the top section more easily. And I'm just going, let's just try over here to do this. I'm going to try a different thing over here. So you can see I selected the rectangle, which was over here, this tool, and I chose several options over here. I filled the background with the black color. I chose the line, also increased the border so it's more visible. In this case, I'm just going to reduce a bit because it's just way too much. And yeah, now I have a place to put my name. Let's put Jordan Alexo. So actually, I'm going to just grab this test over here and Jordan Alexo. Make it white, just like that, and decrease the font quite a lot. Let's try, this is way too much, and let's try 550 pixels, and let's just put over here my name. Okay, like that. Okay, now when it comes to images, I mean, these images aren't exactly the best ones, or at least the ones that I would use for this this book. So let's try. I'm going to try to do my best with the images that I already have, so I don't waste more time getting other ones. And let's try let's see how this looks like if I did this. This image is just way too big, man. It's just way too big. Probably something like this. Let's try passing this image over here, cancel, and just trying. As I said, you really need to play with things around until you get something that looks better. Okay, so the problem about these images is that they are way too wide, and I would need to do something a bit different over here. So so what I'm going to do is actually going to use the guides over here, and I would need to try to position this guys the best as possible, and probably it won't be exactly that good. And you can see that in this case, this author did this diagonal cut in his images, and this is something that I could do, but it would be quite time consuming for me to do that. So I'm just going to leave this way, and what I'm going to do now is just try to position this image as best as possible in the center, just like this. And I'm going to cut this image over here. That's why I have the guidelines, so I can cut it more precisely. And I'm also going to cut, let's not just cut this one now, and I'm going to cut over here this one, just like this. And now I'm going to position the image on the background better, and try to do my best over here. It doesn't look that ideal, but probably a bit confusing at the moment. But it's kind of hard for people to see it do something like this. I probably would just leave an image on the background and not use this. But now what you need to do is you need to have some lines basically separating your images. Now, once again, I'm not saying that this is the best cover in the world. Actually, I would need to spend some time, probably even go out there, find other images in order for me to do this more precisely. But you can see what I actually did this wrong. I didn't want to do this. So I created a new layer and I added this blank. I'm going to add a blank line as a separator. Actually, this saved over here, and I need to delete this. So I have a new layer over here which I'm going to use. I created a new layer and I'm going to use this rectangle tool, and so I can do a line to separate my images, just like this. And now I just need to increase the sizing a bit. So we'll fill over here the top, and I'm going to duplicate this layer just like this. And put it over here. Okay. Now let's just remove this guidelines so we can more easily see this cover. And see how it looks like. Okay, once more, this is probably not the best cover in the world. I would need to change the colors. I certainly would change the images, but you basically get the idea of what I commonly do when it comes to covers, and it's something that commonly takes a few hours until you have a good cover over here. I want to make the background, because the background is way too dark and it's hard for people to see that this is actually it's not. My Photoshop is going a bit crazy, as you may see, so this is something that commonly happens when you don't edit a video. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this background and I'm going over to image, and since I'm so used to doing this, sometimes I forget that other people may not know how to do this. So I just go over here to brightness and make this background a bit more clear, and you can see that it makes the book immediately look a bit more light, and you can more easily see that this is a wooden background. So yeah, this is something that you could do. Another thing that you could also do over here is decrease the opacity. This is this rectangle over here, so I selected the rectangle and I can decrease a bit the opacity over here if I want, and it makes things look a bit more like that. And let's go over here to my name. Where is my name actually? Jordan Alexo. It's actually bold, and I don't want this bold. Let's say italic. Let's see how it looks. Nah, that looks bad. Okay, so let's just leave it this way and try to center as best as possible. Decrease the rectangle a bit because it's way too big, and just like that. And probably this would be something that I would do. Let's see. So I'm just looking around and seeing if I can change a few more options over here, trying to do my best over here to make a good cover. But I guess you get the idea. This cover it's decent. It's not a cover that I would actually use for my book, but I would need to spend more time playing around with the several options over here. But I guess you get a good idea of what you can do with the options that I explained. And I'm actually going to explain another thing that you can do in case you want to. It's not something I would use for this book, But let's go over here to background, scratch. This is something that commonly you may want to use for your font, is to give your font a few scratches. This is something that looks pretty cool in some niches. So I'm going over here and I just use background scratch, as you may see, and I'm going to select over here a scratch background to use. Let's see this one over here. So I'm going to save this image over here, and I guess this video it's really long at the moment. It's Jesus, 1 hour. I've been 1 hour talking and I didn't even notice. So let's go over here to Photoshop. This is something that you may want to actually do in some cases. So you want to have a few scratches on your font. It's not something that I would put in a cookbook book, but sometimes you just want to do that. So you grab a background similar to this one, you pass it over here, and actually it's already here, I think. Yeah, it's already here. What you do is where is Japanese? So let's make this Japanese font have a few scratches. So I'm going to increase the sizing a bit of this image, and this is something that sometimes you may want to do, and it's a pretty cool thing for you to do. So you grab, let's see, Japanese, and I'm going to duplicate this layer. This is what I normally do. I hide the one that was below, and what I do is I transform this layer rasterize type, because in case I don't like this, I still can easily recover just by switching it back over, as you can see. So now what I do is I go to this background and I try to position this as best as possible. Let's say like this. I select everything, and now I use Control Shift E all at the same time to inverse the selection. I hide this layer. I hide that layer so it doesn't bother me, and I go to where I have Japanese. This is actually already rasterized, and what I do is I grab a rubber. I actually cannot see the rubber at the moment, and I try, and you can see that. Of course, you need to play with this. Actually, it's just deleting over there, and you can see that you can do actually this is, you need to be careful so you don't actually delete everything, but you can see that you can do some pretty cool things over here. So I'm just going to select it, and you can, as you can see at the moment, it's not that good, but let's try again over here. For some reason it didn't delete it. And this is how you can actually do a font with this style. Okay, this is way too much. This is just an example. So what you need to do is grab a background similar to this one. You pass over here to where you have your cover. You select everything over here in this layer. You select everything. You inverse selection by using Control Shift E. You remove this, and you go to where you have your rasterized font, which is this one. You grab the rubber and you start deleting the small sections that you want. This allows you to have this rug font, which looks pretty cool for some niches, for some books inside of some niches. So this is something that you can also do. It's a technique that I sometimes use. Okay, so this is how the cover looks at the moment. And actually this is not positioned in the center. It's a bit, you can see that it's a bit over here. Okay, so this is the cover, how it looks at the moment. I would certainly need to change the images. I would need to play around with these images, waste some time so I could actually use this diagonals over here for my image. This is something that you can also do, and it looks pretty cool on that book. Also, I would change probably the color for my font. I actually don't like this color that much, but you get the idea of how you can do covers by the several options that I explained. I know this was a huge video. I wasn't expecting to make a video of this length. Anyway, you get the idea of how I actually make covers. This is something that normally takes a bit of time for you to get a good cover, but once you have a good cover, you actually have a cover that is far better from the ones that you probably would get from Fiverr, from someone who you paid $5. And the thing is, normally the first cover, when I start a new series of books in a particular niche, the first cover is really the one that takes the longest. And basically what happens next for my other books is I just use this same template for my other books, and I just change the images, the text. Of course, you want to change the title and the subtitle, but I just use the same cover, or basically the same template for my other books inside of the same series of books that I'm publishing in a niche. Okay, that is all for this video. I hope you enjoy. If you enjoy, leave a like. If you have any question related to how you can make covers for Kindle books, or any tip that you would like to share, just leave it on the comment section right below. If you are struggling with Kindle publishing and you want to build a successful nonfiction business, I recommend for you to get Self-Publishing Revolution. This is exactly the course that I got. It's one of the best courses that you will find in the market, where there are plenty and plenty of students always showing their proven results, dashboards of them doing a lot of money inside of Kindle, CreateSpace, ACX, and so on. If you want to get this course, you can click on the link right below in the description from this video. Anyway, that is all for this video. Stay tuned with Pro Tutorials, and bye.